Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is show you where to find the D2L login link. Um, so as you can see, we're at the PCC homepage, and one of the easiest ways for instructors to log into D2L Brightspace is to simply go to My PCC. So if we go into My PCC, and I'm already logged in, but log into My PCC, and when you log into My PCC, you will scroll down to the Quick Links portal. And this little box, there's a link under PCC sites that says D2L Brightspace login. This will allow you to log into D2L Brightspace. And since you've already signed in with your MyPCC username and password, it goes straight into D2L Brightspace, so you don't have to log in again. All right, so when you first log in, the page that you land on is the My Home page. This My Home page has a lot of links and various things on it. I'm going to walk you through all the major components so you're familiar with what is there. So the first thing I want to show you is this little house icon in the upper left-hand corner. When I hover over it, it says My Home. This little house is on every page in D2L Brightspace. So if you ever want to come back to this page, your landing page, all you have to do is click on the little house in the upper left-hand corner for My Home. Now, if we go across, this whole top part of D2L Brightspace is the navigation area, the navigation bar. And if we go across, you're going to see a set of cubes, like it looks like a tic-tac-toe or something. This button is the course selector. It allows you to select various courses that you might have access to in your course. I'll click on it. You can see I have a lot of that access to a lot of courses in my instructor account. There is an icon here for emailing, for messaging, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. There's subscription alerts. So if you post a message to the discussion forum or something, you might automatically be subscribed. So if someone replies to you, you might get a subscription alert. A little alert and a little red button or a little red dot would show up right there and let you know that there's a message somewhere in the discussion forum for you. And then also there's subscription alerts or update alerts, update alerts. That's the little bell. And this is nice because it lets students know when they submitted a file correctly or when something's been uploaded. For me, it's telling me that I have an activity feed post that's been posted or various other little updates that might be occurring in the course. And as we go across, we have my name. If I click on my name or if you click on your name, it gives your account information. It gives links to various things for your account. You can go into your profile and add a picture. It needs to be a smaller size picture, so you don't want like a big, huge, full HD image. It needs to be something small, cropped, and so on. But you can upload that and have a little picture associated with your name, and I would recommend doing that. So you click on Profile. I'll just show you that. There's a lot of information you could fill in here. You don't have to. Obviously, I haven't. So don't feel compelled that you need to fill this whole page out. But I would recommend going in and adding a picture, uploading a picture to it. There's also a notifications link, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit when I talk about announcements. But your students and you can set up how you want to be notified of things going in the course. So you can set it up through the app, through text message, or through email. And I'll talk about that and show it to you a little bit later. Then also there's account settings. Now this is important because this is where you can determine what default font size you want for D2L Brightspace. So one thing I've noticed working with a variety of instructors, some people say, oh, that font's too small, I want to make it bigger. So then they change the font size in all their messaging to have a larger font size. But what you don't realize is when you do that, when you change the font size, maybe you want it a little bit bigger and you make it 14 point or something like that, it overrides the default. So if you have a student or somebody else comes in the course and they need to use huge font, I'll just save these so you can see what it looks like. You notice things got really much bigger, or the font sizes got a lot bigger. If you had set your fonts in your messages, like in your announcements or something like that, your font that you set would override the student's setting or another instructor's setting or whatever it might be, and they would have the tiny font and now instead of the big font. So everything around it would look big and then the font would look really small. And you thought you were making it bigger, but you actually end up making it smaller for some people. So it's really important to try to maintain the default font size in D2L Brightspace for this reason. So if you find that you want the font size in D2L Brightspace to look bigger, go into your account settings and just change the font size here. And this allows everybody to have their own individualized settings within the environment. I'm going to go back to my home, click on the little house. And now I'm going to talk about this navigation bar here at the bottom part of the navigation bar. There's a few links. You don't really have to worry about any of them right now, but except for the instructor resources link. This provides you with links to tutorials and technical supports and D2L video playlists. There's some great 2-3 minute videos that walk you through very specific tasks, and they're wonderful to watch. And then there's also other information if you're interested about teaching and learning posted here as well. Now we get down further on the page. You see all these boxes on the screen, and these boxes are called widgets. So all these boxes that you see are called widgets. If you ever call into the faculty help desk and you're like, I don't know what's going on with my Access Google Apps, you can say the Access Google Apps widget, and they'll know exactly what you're talking about. And speaking of the Access Google Apps widget, if you haven't really logged into D2L Brightspace before, you'll have, it'll be a prompt here in the widget for you to authorize and link your PCC Google account with D2L Brightspace. I highly recommend you do this. Follow the prompts, click allow, it's okay. And what it does is when you're in D2L Brightspace, you can just click on your Gmail. It'll take you right into your Gmail, or it take you right into your Google Drive or to your calendar. So you don't have to go and log back into your Google account somewhere else. You can link to it right from your My homepage in D2L Brightspace. Another thing that's really great about linking this account is if you are a Google Drive user, if you do use Google Drive to store documents, you can add documents into D2L Brightspace directly from your Google Drive, which is a really handy trick to do. And I can talk about that more in our Basics 2 session when we go over adding instructional content. All right. We also have a widget that just is kind of front and center with a link to the instructional continuity page. This is being updated fairly frequently, so I recommend taking a look periodically and seeing if anything is new. Emails usually go out as well when this page is updated, but there's a lot of resources on the instructional continuity page about getting started and kind of expectations for remote teaching. Below that widget, for the instructional continuity widget, there's an announcement widget. And here is where online learning, we post a variety of announcements to instructors. Every 2 weeks, we have a best practices blog. So it goes over some tips and tricks of using the LMS or teaching remotely, teaching online. And people find them very useful and informative that you can use as and apply to them in your own courses. Over on the right-hand side, you'll see a widget that's below the Access Google Apps, and this contains some important links, the faculty help desk information, and also a training calendar. In the important links section, the only one you really need to worry about is the instructional continuity link. We put it here as well, but the other 4 links won't really apply to you until you're using D2L in subsequent terms. So don't worry about the rest of those links at this juncture. Below that's the faculty help desk. These folks are super helpful. They are PCC individuals who know D2L like the back of their hand. They know, they're familiar with the teaching and learning here at PCC. So if you have questions and you need technical support on how to do something within the system, within the platform, D2L, Brightspace, call them. We have weekend hours right now from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., and we're available Monday through Friday, 8 to 7 p.m. So, and you can also send them an email, but feel free to give them a call. They'll answer and help you very quickly. If you're like me and sometimes find yourself working late at night because you're scrambling to get stuff ready, and it's 11 o'clock or midnight or even 2 a.m., if that's your preferred work time, you can call the D2L Help Support. They're available 24/7, and the wait times are usually really, really short. So I recommend taking advantage of that, or those services as well. And then below that is the training calendar. So you signed up for this session. If you want more, there's a link to our training calendar here on the homepage of D2L Brightspace as well. All right, so we're finally to the last widget on the homepage, and that's the My Courses widget. And it's where all the links to your courses live. And depending on how many terms you've taught and where you have had access to different courses, your tabs may look different than mine. But that's okay. The one that you care about right now is the 2020 O2 Spring tab. So if you click on the 2020 O2 Spring tab, and it should maybe open up as by default for you automatically, but if it isn't, just click on that tab, and you will see a list of all your spring term courses. Each CRN will have its own link. So each course section has its own link and its own unique course area. So we can click on one of them. I'm going to go into the EC298. I'm not really teaching this one, but I am teaching EC201. But here we are going to go into Malthusian arguments and talk about the course homepage. So what online learning has done for you is created a template to get you started with using D2L Brightspace, so it's not completely blank for you and you had to start from scratch. So I'm going to walk you through the elements on the course homepage that should be the same in each one of your course sections. So again, you can see that there's the little house icon in the upper left-hand corner that takes you back to the landing page to My Home if you need the faculty help desk or the training calendar, or you need to go to another course. You have a link to, it gives you the title of your course, and this also acts as a link which takes you back to this course homepage. The course selector is also there, and so if you notice, this top bar is essentially the same as what you saw on the My Home page, except it added in the link for your course, and it has the actual course number and CRN here. Okay. Right below that is your navigation bar for your course. These are your course-specific links. These links take you to different areas within the specific course. Malthusian arguments, for instance. These don't take you out to any other courses. These keep you right here in this particular EC298 course. So you have your course home, which will always bring you back to the page we're viewing right now. There is the content link, the content area. That takes you to the area where you can upload all your files and add videos and assignments and so on. We're going to talk about that particular portion of the D2L Brightspace in my Basics 2 session. The next 3 links are for discussions, assignments, and quizzes. These are very specific tools, and you can set up different types of assignments using these particular tools. So they don't have to be used specifically for quizzes, for instance, or specifically for course discussions. Discussions can be used if you want students to submit assignments that the whole class sees at the same time. So like a presentation, or maybe you want them to post a PowerPoint that everyone can view, something like that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a discussion between students, but it can definitely be used that way. Then there's the class list. This is the area that lists all your student names, and you're there as well. So your students can go to the class list and see who their instructors is in your name and be able to email from the class list. And I'll talk about that a little bit. There is a gradebook built into D2L Brightspace. We're not going to talk about that. This is something I would highly recommend that if you do want to use, you don't need to really worry about it until maybe you're looking at like week 3 or 4, to be honest. Let's get you started into the LMS and then we can add in that grade book for you. Online rooms is where you can set up a Zoom meeting like we're doing right now. And you can set these up for your students and talk to them, have office hours, get clarifications, provide little mini lectures or whatever it might be, so you can present some material and get that understanding to your students of what's going on. There's a help link. This is for students, D2L Help, quick start videos, the student help desk is also linked here, online tutoring, and so on. And then there's the course admin link. This is where this has every single link for everything that you could possibly do in D2L Brightspace. There's a lot in there. I wouldn't worry about it right now, but that is where you would go to take care of more administrative duties and look at tools that are not linked on the navigation bar. You don't have to worry about that one yet either. Okay, so then the next thing is we have a banner that has an image associated with it. And you can choose your own image. You don't have to use the image that D2L Brightspace has automatically populated for you. So maybe I don't like all the coins lined up for my Malthusian economics course. So you can click on the 3 dots in the banner. If you just hover over the banner, 3 dots will pop up in the upper right hand. Click on that. You can select Change Image. And you can come in and choose any image. Since it's an econ class, it's coming up with some money and so on. But I might want something completely different, like a nature picture, for instance. And maybe I like this fern. I'm going to go with the fern. And I want to use it. So I'm going to hover over it, and it just says use this image. Click on that or select it. And it will just automatically update your image to the one that you chose. And so now you can kind of personalize your course a little bit with your own personality and things that you like. Okay, so then I'm going to start over on the right-hand side with the Getting Started Instructor Only widget. So your course homepage also has widgets, just like the My Homepage did. And so here we have a welcome message, and this is geared for you in remote teaching. There is a link to how to add your syllabus to the content area, how to write a message on the homepage, email the class list. So some of the things that we're going to talk about today, if you don't remember, they're here. There's some instructions here in this widget. And contact your ITS for help. And then if you're done with this and you don't need to use it anymore, students can't see this. This is only for instructors. If you don't want to see this anymore, you just click on the down arrow and you can say collapse this widget. All these little down arrows you see next to the titles on these widgets, those little down arrows represent the action menus. That's like right-clicking in Word, where all the options pop up for that particular item. So anytime you see a little down arrow, if you click on it, it'll give you a set of options that you can do with it. So I'm going to collapse this widget, and it'll give me a little bit more real estate. There is the student help desk on your homepage. This is really handy for your students because, they might need technical support, need help submitting an assignment, or something's not working right for them. They can chat right here in the window, or they can call the student help desk and email too. So it's a really handy widget for students. And we like online learning, PCC, we like you as an instructor to make sure that that student help desk widget is on the homepage for your students, your course homepage. And then also there's a calendar widget, and you can set up calendar events in the calendar widget, or you can assign dates with assignments, and then they automatically populate into the calendar. Now, I'm not going to go into that in much detail. I will talk about it a little bit when we talk about graded activities. But if you set up like a Zoom room too, which we'll talk about in the Basics 2 section on instructional content, you can set up a calendar event for that. Okay, so the last thing on the homepage is the activity feed. You should all have an activity feed in here. If you don't have an activity feed, you might have an announcements widget. And I'm going to explain both of those. I realized I don't have the I don't have the announcements widget here. So I am going to go and up to my little house icon, and I'm going to go and select a course that I know has one so I can demo them both. Okay, so so you'll also have the activity feed, and here is the announcements page. So I just jumped into another course that had both here so I can demo them for you. You won't have both in your course. You may have one or the other. And if you decide you want one over the other, call the faculty help desk and they can get the widget that you want to use onto your course homepage for you, lickety split, excuse me. Okay, so let's talk about the activity feed and what it can do. The activity feed is a really handy and a quick way for you to leave messages for your students. To create a post, you can just click on the plus button, and you can add a message, you can add an assignment. So I'm just going to do a message right now. So we're going to create a message. I'm going to say, hi, students. Welcome to EC, and this is my 201 course. Hope we have. And then one thing that's neat about the activity feed, and this is what makes the activity feed very unique, is its ability to allow comments. So you can post an announcement and students can comment back to you and ask questions for clarification and so on. Very handy. You can also add attachments. So if I wanted to add some sort of attachment to like a syllabus, I don't have a syllabus, but I'm just going to grab something really quick to attach. I'm going to attach a web link. I'm going to call it a syllabus, but it's not really. And I can say post. And since it's a Google document and I've integrated my Google Drive, it's going to come up with a nice, the syllabus. It's going to come up with a Google Drive symbol, and it'll actually preview the very beginning of your document a little bit. So then students can then write comments. So I'm going to pretend I'm a student. Don't understand the grading scheme. All right, then you can post, and then you as this instructor could reply back, or other students could reply to them too. So it kind of creates this dynamic conversation right on your homepage that can be really useful. Now, with the announcements tool, it's a little bit different. It doesn't have the commenting feature, but it does allow you to add more things to it, which is also nice. So to create an announcement, you can click the down arrow and say new announcement, or select new announcement. You would give yourself a title like you would in an email. Welcome to EC 201. Looking forward to having and then if I wanted to attach that document, I would click on the insert quick link button, for instance, select a URL. So like I said, there's a lot more options in here that you have to wade through. But you can insert images, embed videos, and do all sorts of things with the announcements tool. But you can just write plain text messages as well. One nice feature about the announcements is if, let's say, I'm decided to write this message the night before, but I don't want it to go out to my students at 10 p.m. I just want to get it off my plate. you can schedule the announcement to be sent out at a particular time. So you can set a start and end date, or excuse me, a start date for your end time for your announcement. So if I didn't want this to go out until tomorrow morning at, let's say, 6 a.m., it won't go out till tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. I'm going to say now, just so we can see what it looks like on the homepage. But you can schedule it. You can also schedule an end date, but I highly recommend not doing this unless you absolutely do not want your students to see your announcement ever again, because it's completely removed. They can't go back and look at it. So if you're posting links or attachments to files or anything like that, that they might want to look back a week from now or 2 weeks from now, you don't want to set an end date for your announcement. And you can also attach files. You can record audio. So you could create like a little podcast if you wanted, or you could record video. Now, the one thing about recording audio and recording video here is it's not permanent. It will only last for about a term. You have about 3 months, maybe a little more, that it would be available. But then after that, it gets deleted from the D2L server. So it's not something that can actually carry with you from term to term. If you want, so these would be like those short, quick videos or audio snippets that you're going to provide for that student. It's very particular for that class. And then you can click publish. I'm going to click now, so it goes to my homepage. Click publish. And once you publish, it'll take you to the announcements tool, so you can see all your announcements at once. And to go back to the course homepage, I just simply click on Course Home. And then you'll see my announcement here. Another thing about the announcements widget is that any announcement that you post will copy from term to term. So if you do plan to use the shell D2L Brightspace in subsequent terms, all the announcements and messages that you made will carry over into the following term. And so you can just tweak what you've already written for your new class. Posts that you do in the activities feed do not carry over from term to term. So those are some of the differences between the activity feed and the announcement. Did I not call something a widget, Peter?
No, sorry, Rondi. That was when you were talking about widgets. I wanted to point out that I want to spell the word because the word widget is not a well-known word, and I just wanted to stick it into the chat there.
Thank you. I teach economics, and products that companies make are all called widgets. So it's a very familiar term for me, except this has a different definition. Okay, so now we've talked about the announcements, getting those announcements to your students. They obviously can see them when they log into your course, but what about if they're not logged into your course? What can you do, or how can you recommend your students see and get those messages even when they're not logged into your course? So I'm going to show you notifications. We're going to click on your name and we go to notifications. And this is something I would recommend you have you post in your welcome message to your students, that they go and set up notifications. All they have to do is click on their name and select notifications, and they come to this page where they have a lot of options on how they want to get notifications in your course. The first is front and center is the Pulse app. So D2L Brightspace has an app for your phone, iPhone or Android device, and it pushes notifications. So if you post an announcement for your students, the students will get a ding on their phone letting them know that their instructor has just given them a message. They can view their grades, they can view content, they can even post discussion posts right from the Pulse app. And you as the instructor can use it too. If you want to leave a quick post in the discussion, you can use it too. It really is, though, I'm going to say, geared for student use. And it's really good for that. And it actually helps aggregate assignments and calendar events all in one place for students, so they can actually see a diagram and a chart that shows them how many assignments from all their classes are due on a certain day. So it kind of aggregates information for them, which is pretty cool. Because otherwise in your class, it's all just, it's only your class the student sees the information for. But in the Pulse app shows them the information for all their courses. They just need to set up their email address, and they can register their mobile number so they can get text messages. And they can choose how often they get notifications or what type of notifications they want. But then they can get instant notifications. And this is what's really useful for students. They can select text message or email notifications. So if you post a message to the activity feed, that's what you're planning to use, I would recommend you tell your students, I want you to set your notifications so that you get either a text message or an email from me when I post to the activity feed. Or if you're going to use the announcements tool, that the same goes there, that they select either getting a text message or an email when you post an announcement. They can set up all sorts of other notifications, like giving them a notification 2 days prior to assignment being due, as long as you set a due date for it, and for other assignments as well. So there's a lot of handy notifications to help students stay on top of their material, and especially right now when everything's going remote and they're going to be relying on technology even more, this can help keep them organized and on top of things. Okay, I'm going to go back to the course homepage. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about is email. How can you email your students from within D2L Brightspace? And there are 2 ways you can do this, and I'm going to show you the first way, and that's the best way, to be honest. It's the easiest way. So you go to class list, and from the class list, you can select your students that you want to send emails to. If you're sending individual messages, you can just select the students that you need to send individual messages to, or you can select all your students all at once. And if you click the little checkbox at the very top of the table. Now, something to keep in mind is the default setting in D2L Brightspace is 20 students per page. Generally, we may have more than 20 students in the class, as I do right now. I think I have probably 30 or something. So I needed to set my page to be 50 per page. That way I can select everyone at once. Otherwise, you might have to do it in 2 batches, and you don't want to have to do that if you can help it. So go into class list and scroll to the bottom and set your default to be 50 people per page, and it should keep that setting for that course. So let me show you what the emails will look like. These emails go through your PCC Gmail. So this just creates an interface for quickly sending emails. I'm not going to email my entire class because we'll wonder what is going on. I'm just going to email myself because, as I said, the instructor, you are on the class list as well. So students can come here, click on your name, and send an email. So if I click on my name, it'll automatically pop up and allow me to send a message to this person, which is me in this case. The other way to do it is that's if you're doing an individual student. And if you're selecting everyone, so let's just pretend I'm selecting everyone here, but I'm just selecting myself. You scroll up to the top once everyone's selected, or you have multiple individuals selected, and click on the email button, the email link here at the top. And what this does is it will put everyone that you've selected into the BCC field. And then you can leave a subject. If you notice, it auto-populates with your course number, course code, and CRN, and the title of your course. It's in the course catalog. I hope I'm the only course my students are taking that's EC201. So I tend to just shorten that a little bit myself personally. You don't have to. And then write in the subject, and then I'm going to just write myself a message.
Hey, Rondi, this is Peter.
Yes.
I heard from an instructor who had a good tip about that. The information that's in the square brackets that you're showing us right there, And what this instructor does is that she asks her students to preserve all the information in the square brackets because she uses the CRN as a sort or a search term. So she can go ahead and she has her CRNs listed, and she'll it's kind of hard sometimes how email kind of gets lost, right, in our inboxes because we have so many emails. Anyway, so she just keeps her CRNs on hand, and when she's wondering if she's got a message from students in any class, she'll just type in the CRN into the search box in Gmail and then be able to search for any class emails that may. So I thought that was a good suggestion.
That's a really good and handy tip. Definitely. Thank you, Peter. I have my email set up a little bit differently, so I like keeping my subjects, lines a little bit shorter. But yes, if you are somebody who sorts by CRN, definitely keep all that information in there. And my students, I don't tell them to shorten the subject line. I have them email using the entire course code and name in the brackets. So this is something I do when I'm just sending emails to my students. Okay, this is a test, is a message to my students. Get ready for spring. One thing I'm going to show you is you can actually set up emoticons and so on too if you wanted to add smiley faces and everything. Insert an emoticon. There's not a lot to choose from, but if you wanted to add a smiley face or something, you can. I have noticed that in an online environment, just you're using written communication a lot. And so it's really hard to understand inflection and tone in an email where you think you're being very direct and succinct. They might think, oh my gosh, it's kind of harsh, especially if it's depending on the topic or the mood that individual's in at the time. It's amazing what just judiciously placed smiley face will do to help them feel a little bit more at ease with the environment that they're learning in. I wouldn't go like emoji happy by any means as somebody who's taught business communication, but judiciously placed ones do help a lot with tone in your email, in your messaging to students in an online environment. Okay, so I'm gonna hit send, and I'm gonna show you what this looks like in my email inbox. So it's a one-way street. This is an email that you a compose message email box in D2L Brightspace, but all email is sent through to your Gmail account. So if you want to view the email again, you need to go to Gmail. If you want to, if students reply to you, you'll get those replies within your Gmail account. You only have to go to your email there. If you wanted to send a quick message from D2L, that's how you do it. So let's go to my Gmail. I'm just going to pop that up. So if you're already, if you can go back to my homepage to access your Gmail. Click on the Gmail link from the Access Google Apps if you've activated it. And if you can see here at the very top, I have 2 email messages that came to me. One is because I sent an email to myself, so of course I'd have that message. But 2, D2L Brightspace always sends a copy of the email to the instructor a copy of the email that is sent to the instructor. So I get the email that was sent to me as a student, and then I also get the copy of it that comes to me. So if you're going to email the entire class list and you don't remove yourself from the entire class list, you're going to get 2 email messages. But if let's say you just selected 3 students, you'd only get 1, and that would be the copy of the email. So that way you have it in your inbox, and so when students start replying to it, you'll have that conversation right there for you to search. I'm going to go back into D2L. And the other way, other than the class list, to email is the little email icon here at the top of the page. This isn't a very useful icon or a useful tool for emailing. But I'm going to show it to you just so you know what it is. So you can click on the little envelope, And then there's another link that you click on for email. So you kind of click twice to get to where you need to go. And you get to a composed message, just like you saw before, except this time you don't have your students' names or their usernames or anything. You need to know the email address of the person you're sending an email to send email using the little envelope button from the navigation bar. So this is why I highly recommend using the class list, unless you know the exact email address you're going to be sending your students.
Rondi, this is Peter. Is that the same email address as the regular PCC email address, or is it a special email address?
What do you mean?
Some people may remember that in the old days we had those email addresses that were like, rondi.schei@online.pcc.edu, but now we can use the regular email address, right?
Yes. It's all your PCC email address.
Right. So you can't just put in like rondi.schei and hit send. It needs the whole thing.
I believe so. We can test it really fast. I've got a couple extra minutes. Okay, let's see what happens. Nope, it looks like it's sent when you just use the username.
Okay, good to know. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. But you still would need to know the username of the person you're sending the email to. So keep that in mind. And a lot of our students have numbers after their names and so on too. All right. Where's home? So we've covered all the major topics for this session. Are there any questions about anything I've talked about, or maybe other questions that have popped into your head as I've been talking?
And also, if you, sorry, this is Peter again. If you would like to type a question, you can bring your cursor down to the bottom of the screen in Zoom, and there's a little kind of navigation bar that's there, some choices that you have, like mute, start video, invite, etc. And then if you go all the way over to the right, you may have to click on more, but a little chat button should come available to you as well. So you can click on that. That'll bring up a little chat window, and you can type a question in there, or you can go up to the Manage Participants screen by clicking on the Manage Participants button, and then go up and click unmute next to your name, and then that'll bring your microphone up, and you can ask a question using your microphone if you have one. So those are two ways to ask questions.
Thank you, Peter. Yes, Marty. So the question is, does the student list update as students withdraw or drop? Yes. So if a student withdraws or drops from the class, this D2L class list will also update. There might be a little bit of a delay, but the latest it would be by the end of the day. So when I think Banner turns over at like 10 p.m. or something like that.
Yeah, and Marty, this is Peter. And one little twist on that also is that when you go into the class list in D2L, you will see a button that says unenroll. And you can actually check the little box next to a student's name and then unenroll the student from your D2L class. And that can be, seem tempting. However, Banner will then add the student back in about 5 minutes. So the only way to drop a student from your course in D2L is to, really only registration can drop the student. You can mark the student NS for no show, and that will cause the student to be dropped the next day. That's just like in your face-to-face classes. But the thing to know is that D2L and Banner are always communicating with one another, and so you can't put one by Banner through D2L, if that makes sense.
I'm going to clarify. I don't believe instructors have the ability to unenroll students. So I'm looking at my class list right now, and I don't have the option to unenroll.
Thank you, Rondi. That's my superpower because I'm an administrator. Okay,
yes,
thanks.
It is, Peter. So yes, you don't have to worry about unenrolling. or accidentally doing that.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yes, Danu.
Okay, I have one student, a credit student on one CRN, and the other part, non-credit students, 6 of them. Can I combine 2 sections?
Yes, and you just need to call the the faculty help desk, 971-722-8227, and they can cross-list that for you.
Oh, cross-list. Okay, is that how you describe it?
Yes.
Cross-list. Faculty help, right?
Right. Actually, you should probably contact Donna. Hold on a second.
Sure.
This will be probably the easiest way to do it. So on the My homepage in D2L, Banu,
yeah,
under the important links.
Yes.
For you, since you do want to cross-list, there is a link to the cross-list D2L courses here, and you just fill out the form, and they'll combine your classes for you. I'm going to put the link in the chat window for you as well.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, Marty, if a student withdraws, it stays on the class list, but what if I don't want that on my D2L? It's like emailing the whole group. If you find that you have a student who has withdrawn and they're still on your class list the next day, call the help desk and we can get them removed for you.
Rondi, just as a point of interest, if a student is marked W by registration, does the student stay on the course roster in MyPCC and also in D2L?
No, they're removed in D2L, but they're on the class roster with a W in MyPCC on Banner.
So then they show up on the in D2L also in the class list?
No, they're removed from D2L.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
There's also a good question from Sharma, which I don't know the answer to. Does the activity feed keep all documents, videos, messages, etc. from term to term, just like the announcements feature?
No, it does not. The activity, that's the one thing about the activity feed, is those announcements are for that term. When you copy your course from term to term, it's a whole new blank activity feed. You can't copy from one term to the next. Only announcements copies over from term to term.
And Rondi, does the activity feed also show up things like you have an assignment to grade, there's a new discussion, there's a quiz completion? Is that in activity feed also?
No, the activity feed is more like an announcements tool with a commenting feature that doesn't copy over. So if you wanted to know if you have an assignments or quizzes submissions or something like that, you can use the updates. And then you can also ask if you want to see specifically that you have 12 discussions to read or you have 25 quizzes to grade, there is this tool called the Quick Eval, and you can come in here and you can actually see all the assignments students have submitted in your course. I think global, and I've graded everybody, thank goodness. I got my final grades in today. I was so happy with myself. It's been very busy. But anyway, you can use the Quick Eval, or you can ask the faculty help desk to add in a widget called the updates widget that will actually tell you how many quizzes you need that have not been graded or how many assignments haven't been graded. But that is kind of an older tool that's kind of been grandfathered in when you have all these alerts that are up at the top. So I recommend if you have questions about what you haven't graded or haven't done, you can go to the tool itself to see what you have. Or use
Rondi, I'm sorry, this is Peter again. That's what I was thinking of, the updates widget, which I'm really familiar with. And I put a screenshot of it in the chat in case people want to look at that tool and see what it does. I kind of like that tool. I've gotten used to it over the years, and I like something telling me right on my course homepage that I have an assignment to grade, or there's been a quiz completed or something like that. So if people are interested in that, they can investigate that further.
Absolutely. You can always call the faculty help desk and they can help you with that if it's something you want. Are there any other questions?
Thank you.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. So before I send you off, I just want to talk about some of the resources that are available to you. Obviously, there's the training calendar. You can get more and as much training as you need. Also, after you've taken these basic series, if you still feel like you need some help with putting course content online and how to organize things and some of that pedagogy, you can reach out to your division dean, and there are you have experienced colleagues that are out there willing to help you with this. And so they can get you connected with one of them and they can walk you through the process and kind of do a little bit more one-on-one support with you. So please take advantage of that opportunity as well. The one thing is we recommend, if you're really new to D2L Brightspace, at least going through some of these basic courses. Do you have an idea of what you want to talk about when you actually go and talk to your experienced colleagues and buddies? And buddy up with them for help getting your course online. There aren't any other questions. I'll let you go and play around and explore D2L Brightspace. And hopefully I'll see you at my Basics 2 training tomorrow.
Tomorrow morning, is that?
Tomorrow? Yes, I have a couple of them tomorrow. So yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you
Bye.
very early.
Have a
Thanks,
great
Rondi.
evening. Alrighty, bye.